ሰላም ያላችሁ ቤተሰቦች እንደናችሁ ዛሬ እንግዲህ ባበደ ቪዲዮ ተመልሼላችሁ መጥቻለሁ። ዛሬ አብዛኞቹ ቴሌግራም ላይም ኮሜንት ላይም የለቀቃችሁኝ ሰሞኑን ቢኒያም ግርማይ አሸንፏል መሰለኝ ውድድር ላይ ማለት ነው። እሱን ኤዮ ብላችሁኛል። ተምኔሎቹም ሳይሆን እንደዛ በዛብኝና እሱን ቪዲዮ አብረን እንየው ብዬ ነው። አላየሁትም ነበረ ውድድር እንዳለው ማክቹሊ አላውቅም ነበረ። ብቻ እሱን አብረን ፈታ ዘና እያልን ነው። ላይክ ሰብስክራይብ ማድረጋችሁን እንዳትረሱ። ወደ ቪዲዮ
real fractures in terms of this bunch.
አብዛኛው እንደ ዜና ነገር የቀረበ ነው። ይሄን ቪዲዮ ነው ማን የላከልኝ? የሆነ ሰው የላከልኝ ቪዲዮ ነው። ይሄኛው ይሻላል በሚለው ማለት ነው።
Not through echelons, but in terms of which side of the road that they were going to stay on, and plenty of teams were a bit confused which side of the road they were going to.
ክላሲካ ዲ አልሜሪያ የት አካባቢ የት ነው ውድድሩ የተካሄደው ጋይስ? የት አካባቢ ነው?
Beyond, there was definitely some argy-bargy going on, but before long they were all back together, and this looked like calm before the storm, and that storm came very quickly for some riders as there was a crash behind involving plenty of the Bow Wow's Flanders riders and a Cofidis rider, Valentin Ferrand. So that was a big loss for the Cofidis team, looking to try and take the scalp with Fretton once more. The crashes didn't stop there, however. There was another crash that happened a few kilometers later involving an FDJ rider and another Bow Wow's Flanders rider, so it was not a particularly good day for them. Then with just under 11 kilometers to go, we got Unibet taking control at the front of the race, looking behind, making sure that Dylan Groenewegen was not too far behind, but still a bit too far out. But the bunch was certainly a bit smaller than we're used to in these sort of sprint finales. Mariani sensed an opportunity and took to the front. The Pro Continental team looking for an upset here, but we still had Q36.5 in a great position. So was NSN Cycling, and Lotto and Tomoshe were also in the mix. But Mariani were not giving up the front without the fight. And were moving neatly up on the right hand side. So was Lotto. It was a bit of a fracture.
እና ደግሞ ጋይስ አንድ ጥያቄ ጠይቃቸው ሉቢ አው ውጪ በቃ ተከለሎ ዘመኖር ጀመረ እንደ ወይ በቃ ወጣው እዛው አውሮፖስት ነው የሆነ ሀገር ላይ ነው ማለት አብዛኛው ውጪ እዛ አይደል የሚካሄደው እዛው ተከለሎ ገባ ወይስ ከኤርትራ እየተመላለሰ ነው?
Lead out for them, but on a delay they were looking to try and get a scalp with him. There was also a bit of argy-bargy going on between Bariani and NSN Cycling, which were positioning Bini in a very good position. And then behind there was another crash, and it wasn't quite between Bariani and NSN Cycling, which were positioning Bini in a very good position. And then behind there was another crash, and it wasn't quite apparent what caused that crash, but plenty of riders coming down behind, and again showing why the front of the race is the best place to be in these very high speed finishes. When we then got to 6 kilometers to go, was sitting in the perfect position. So was Q36.5 as well as Lotto. These three teams were really dictating the pace at the front as they crossed the finishing line for the penultimate time. NSN really put on the pace at the front with 5 kilometers to go. Cofidis trying to match that, and Lotto also in the mix, but the sprinters were not really in the ideal position, but we were still a bit of a way out. We could also see Q36.5 organizing themselves behind this, and they were looking like they could be a very dark horse for the finish. With 3.6 kilometers to go, Lotto sensed an opportunity and got organized, took to the front with 3 of their riders, but NSM were smelling this as well, so they made sure to stick onto this with Bini not far behind on a delete. But with 3.3 kilometers, this looked like a masterstroke for Lotto, but it might have been a bit too soon. If this was 1 kilometer to go, this would have been the perfect move, and before long we could see that Lotto was struggling when the circuit changed a bit. With 2.4 kilometers, Q36.5 were the ones who took up the front, and Lotto were quickly gone from the front already, and that was a bit of a tactical blunder from the Belgian outfit. With 2 kilometers to go, it is Q36.5 and Tudor Pro Cycling who are mostly responsible for the front. And when we do come down to the motorbike shot again, we can see it is in fact Tudor Pro Cycling that had wrestled control of the bunch, driving this home for their man of Mozzato and really injecting some real pace into this going into the last few throws of this race. But NSN Cycling are also quietly moving up with their entourage, and this is the moment right here with 1 kilometers to go. We can see Tudor have basically decimated themselves at the front. Jayco are just about a bit unorganized as well. And there we have NSN Cycling getting organized, having clear air as well to do what they want to move up, and they do a very good job to just dictate the front, and then before long they are the team in control in the crucial part of the sprint. No one really knowing what to do about this, as they just absolutely hijacked control of the sprint, pouncing at the right time and leaving many of these teams scrambling for positions behind. And you can see many of the riders, no Dylan Groenewegen here, on a delay, struggling a bit as well. And this was an absolute masterstroke by NSN Cycling. Here we can see Dylan Groenewegen appearing with no lead out, unfortunately, for the Dutchman. And going into this final, you can see Biniam opening up the sprints, and no one really able to be in the position to challenge the air train for the sprint. Biniam really opening up the throttle and having time to celebrate, with many of the teams being distraught at the loss of position and not quite being able to counter here. And you can see Biniam absolutely in the perfect position there as he celebrates the victory. Fritten, Dylan Groenewegen and the likes will definitely be a bit upset about that. What could have been for them, but
ግን ይመቸው በጣም አጨራረስ ይችላልበታል በጣም ከጉልበትና ከብቃት በላይ ቴክኒክ በጣም ያቀርባል ማለት ነው
what an absolute
ከየት እንደመጣ ለየቱም
stroke by Biniam Girmay and his teammates. They're really showing that NSN Cycling is a really good lead out force for their train. In terms of the top 10, Bini wins, as we know, his second win with the team. Milan Fretin, the
point ራሱ ልዩነቱ የሱ 125 ከሁለተኛው ጋር ራሱ በ40 ይለያያሉ በ40 ማለት ነው
ending champion finishing in second place, Matteo Moschetti in third place. So we saw why 236.5 was working so hard. Dylan Groenewegen in fourth.
አሁን የታገር ነው ጋይስ እሱ እየዶረ ያለው ይመቸው ማለት ነው ጋይስ የዛሬ ቪዲዮአችን ይሄን መስለ ነበር። ያው ፈታ ዘና እንዳላችሁበት ከኔ ላይክ ሰብስክራይብ ማድረጋችሁ እንዳረሱ ባይ